Hi, I'm DuEwa Frazier, and you're listening to episode 40 of Nerdacity podcast. And today I have a special guest who is the co-author of Akoma Guidebook into the Sacred Science of Soulmating, and her name is Nwasha Edu. Nwasha Edu coaches individuals, couples, families, and professionals using real-life strategies that enhance any relationship through the power of ritual and cultural understanding. Nwasha guides couples and singles through the sacred science of soulmating and is the co-creator of a cultural alternative to Valentine's Day called Akoma Day, currently celebrated in 11 countries. Nwasha believes all success is the result of successful relationships, and she uses her skills in strategic intervention to encourage the elevation of all relationships. Nwasha's mission is to help transform any connection from the most casual to the most intimate into one of growth, contribution, and love. Visit her website at www.akomahouseInitiative.com. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Greetings.
How are you doing today?
How about you?
Thank you. Doing well. And thank you for joining on Nerdacity podcast today. It seems like such a perfect time with this being spring, and the feeling of renewal is all around us. And so I think it's a great time to discuss your wonderful book, Akoma Day, Guidebook into the Sacred Science of Soulmating and Cultural Alternative to Valentine's Day. So congratulations on your book.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And so please tell us, how did the concept for the book come about?
My husband and I were celebrating Akoma Day as a cultural alternative to Valentine's Day. And my husband actually introduced Akoma Day to me as something that he had created that was an alternative for just doing the Valentine's Day holiday. So we had been celebrating in the beginning of our relationship before we were married. And while we were in school, we decided to put the Akoma Day book together as something that was an official offering of what we had been celebrating and more of a standard kind of outline that we could give to the community, and also fuse some of the lessons and understanding of the science of soulmating into the book with what we call heart work. So there are exercises in the book along with the understanding of what Akoma Day is.
Wow, that is absolutely wonderful, Nwasha. I love the work that you are doing specifically in the community in helping Black couples to stay culturally connected and presenting them with this alternative that has a cultural and spiritual lens. And I wanted to ask you, do you find that, in today's society of so much social media, you have reality TV shows, you have so many visual tactics that really kind of our senses and spread information that can, I feel, make our relationships dysfunctional and very much shallow and lacking a positive foundation. Do you find that the principles that you teach could be a remedy to some of the ills and toxic relationships that we see today?
It is absolutely the remedy. So I'm going to be, immodest for like 17 seconds.
Okay.
And say absolutely. We definitely need to heal from the oppression that we have gone through. And I think that unfortunately, there's just been an effort to move beyond the challenges that we have had in dealing with our oppression, so surviving that. And it's very difficult for a relationship to thrive when you haven't actually had the healing. So I think sometimes we have rehashed trauma, but we haven't necessarily healed. And I think it's evident by all of the statistics that we see on Black relationships. So we are less likely to marry. We are more likely to divorce. We're having challenges with our families. So with having children and then So we definitely, absolutely need a paradigm shift in how we
Mm.
think of love, how we practice love, how we really seed our love legacies. Because, we're the parent people of humanity. We really should be leading because we've been in love for the longest period of any people on the planet. We
Wow.
definitely have had marriages before any people on the planet. And we actually have the first soulmate story ever. So a lot
Mm.
of times we talk about twin flames and we talk about other cultures saying what their soulmate story is. And we are having a very difficult time just harmonizing relationships.
It's true.
And, that I think that this is, absolutely
You
the
know,
answer to what we see.
I love it, Nwasha. And I'm thinking about, being a child of the hip hop generation, we came up with hearing stuff like, I need a gangsta bee, I need a ride or die chick, and, love has been synonymous or put with pain, with struggle, with, going the distance in a lot of negative ways, that the woman has to bear so much pain and so much um, struggle and even betrayal in order to prove her worth and prove her loyalty and prove that, hey, I'm the one that you should choose among all of these. It's almost
Hmm.
like, there was a reality show years ago. What was it? Flava Flav, the flavor of love. Flavor.
Yes.
Our one of our hip hop, pioneers, Flava Flav, is in a reality show with 16 to 20,
Right.
25 women have to vie for his attention and vie for his, to choose me, pick me. And so I
Hmm.
feel that some of those things has shaped and influenced our culture in terms of how men and women interact and how we start, and even in relationships in almost a very shallow, on the surface manner. And, it's almost like, when someone doesn't get what they want immediately, material things, or, the ride or die behavior that they're looking for, the tagline is, hey, I'm out. Or as
Hmm.
Chris Brown said in his song, a few years ago, deuces. Everything is so, you know what I mean? Everything is just so harsh. And so, it's like, where is the goal of
Hmm.
relationships today? Where is the let me find out who you are as a person, who you are as a friend? Let me
Hmm.
find out your purpose. Like, that is so missing.
I agree. I think it's amazing that you brought up soul. So we teach the science of soul mating, and those are the exercises that are in the book. But we also use the acronym SOUL, which is self, others, understanding, and then legacy. And it's so important to have a perspective and an order to how you approach anything. But absolutely, the most important thing in life, I believe, is relationships, because there isn't something that you want to acquire or do that you don't want to also share with somebody else. And especially for Black people, as Indigenous people, we believe in community in our heart, so we don't do things at a superficial level. But I think, again, from not having healed from the oppression, from living in almost like an alien culture, we are at a very superficial existence right now, especially in most westernized places where you can kind of, hide in
Right.
social media and in entertainment. So some of the things that we're saying, they have, I think, a deeper root to
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, it would be great if I could have unconditional love, that I am here forever. But as Lauren
Mm.
Hill said, can you live for me instead of die for me? Right? Like, I think our
Here,
perspective is just a little bit
I'm
off.
giving you snaps on that, Nawasha. Can you live for me? Can we please cut out the ride and die chick,
Right.
or the ride or die? Why does it have to be die? I mean,
Right.
how tragic is that? And we thought that was funny. And there are people that still say that. People reference the relationship of Tip T.I. Harris and his wife,
Right.
Tiny Harris. And I've often heard, oh, well, she's his ride or die chick. I mean,
Hmm.
as if that is, a badge of honor, not putting any disrespect on their union at all.
Right.
But I'm talking about in terms of how the culture characterizes it, how we
Hmm.
talk about it, and what we think is, oh yeah, she's ride or die. She'll go with
Right.
him, go through anything. And not just her, there are plenty other, I would say, even archetypes in our current culture or society where people say, yeah, that's the relationship I want to have.
Hmm.
The money, the glam, and the struggle and the strife. I'll take all of it.
Right.
And it's like,
I
yeah, do you really know what you're signing up for?
I think most people don't know what they're signing up for in general in any relationship, because we're also at the same time that we need repair. As Masho and I talk about, we say, you need a psychological reparation to what happened
Mm,
to us. But we also need cultural initiation, which would give you a perspective on relationships. Like, what is the deeper, especially when you're talking about the L and soul, the legacy. But the most practical thing I think that we're missing is just relationship education, which means, what am I getting into to know another person? What am I getting into to have to, share who I am? What am I getting into to have to harmonize, have a family, have a conversation, resolve conflict? So we don't really know what that is. And unfortunately, in this time, it's really like the relationship is the initiation. So
mm.
I feel I
Is that
feel
the ride or
bad.
die I was speaking of? Or
Well,
is that?
I think sometimes people feel the love and they're in it, and there's a lot of reasons people don't leave, but also in very public relationships, public relationships have the outside scrutiny that other
Hmm.
relationships don't, and you get to see people mess up in public, and we think that because people have money or access or fame, that they would have had any of those other things, like the psychological reparation or
Sure.
the relationship education or the cultural initiation, and it's not
It's,
true. You just have more
well,
money. You actually have more access to making mistakes because of this kind of abundance in the
mm,
freedom, the superficial freedom. So when you have superficial freedom and you follow somebody around with a camera, you're liable to see anything and be in anything, and
true.
that is something that most relationships don't have, because most people are more anchored, where you can't just do whatever you want because there's going to be repercussions and it.
Uh,
You're more tied to whatever you're doing for employment, to your family. And that's
Community. Mm-hmm.
exactly, people like, who are famous don't necessarily have that. They have access that most of us kind of don't understand. But I
True.
think that we are saying some of the ride or die or hashtag relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We say
Yes.
that because it represents a freedom that we actually do remember in our indigenous, DNA. We remember
Mm,
being free. We remember the total access to the universe, and I think that as very ancient people, now we talk about things like epigenetics, and that's coming into a popular conversation, that you can pass things down through your DNA besides just your hair color or your skin color. You can
exactly.
actually pass down characteristics, but some of the positive characteristics are a feeling of being invincible and a feeling of being omnipresent. And I think that that's sometimes what people are wanting to imply by the ride or die. But I also
Mm-hmm.
think we all crave unconditional love. So when we see someone make a mistake and someone be forgiving, we wish that for ourselves, because we have made mistakes ourselves. We have been less than what we have said we could be. And I think that deep down, we all wish for someone to love us unconditionally. We're just
Mm,
not always practicing unconditional love outward.
mm. Okay. Wow, you just gave us so much, Nawasha. You are so smart. I just need to go ahead and laud you and compliment you as my sister. And you are so beautiful and so eloquent in how
Thank
you
you.
um, relay this information. So I wanted to and compliment you.
Thank you.
I have a few questions on
Hmm.
what you said, and I think this would be very intriguing for those who listen to the interview. You mentioned initiations. You mentioned that somehow that we find that now relationship is the initiation. What
Hmm.
happens if one person, let's say the woman in a couple, has been through multiple initiations in life,
Hmm.
not only educational but spiritual, whether it's
Hmm.
Sacred Woman, whether it's other whether it's baptisms, whether it's other spiritual initiations. What happens if she meets or mates with a man who has not had those same initiations? Can it work, or do two people, as some reference in the Christian tradition, equally yoked? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've even heard Iyanla Van Zant years ago say that she was counseled before she got married. They had to initiate her then husband because she had received so many initiations.
Mm-hmm.
She's at a higher level
Mm-hmm.
spiritually and energetically and in the culture, that the elders and people in the community felt that her partner, even if she was choosing whoever she chose, they have to go through certain initiations just to marry her, just to
Mm-hmm.
partner with her. And so I wondered, what do you think about that today? Do two people have to have the same individual initiations in life or rites of passage that they've been through in order for it to work?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I
And
think,
I'm
we're,
thankful for you to say that, because you and I both went through Sacred Woman, at different times
yes,
with Queen Afua. But I'll be honest with you, I very rarely have met men who have been through similar rites of passage, even if they're a vegetarian or what have
right.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that I think are afforded to women, as Black women, afforded to the opportunities we have in education and various ways of talking and seeking
Mm-hmm.
counseling and sisterhood, I do not always think men have that same comparable program or circle, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
to support some of those rites of passage. But I could be wrong. I
No, I agree with you.
your thoughts. Mm-hmm.
I think men don't have the permission. They haven't given themselves the permission, and they haven't, been afforded the opportunity to have a wide range of emotion the way that women have been given that opportunity. And I think that we also, at the most basic level, women appreciate community learning, so we,
Mm-hmm.
we do a lot of things in community. We go to the bathroom in community.
Mm-hmm.
We eat in community. We just share. And I think that that's something that is at the root of the divine feminine. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that I can see a rise in the masculine wanting those safe spaces to develop
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to, be able to have more emotional range. But I do think that, we're also at a time that some things, because of technology and just globalization, we're able to access a lot of things right now on the planet. So I do see that men will be able to take that opportunity and create more opportunities for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But that is also the same reason why I think that you don't have to have the same initiation. So one of the things about the globalization of Black culture is we're not necessarily living in small hubs or villages and communities where we're going to get the exact same thing to prepare young men and young women for marriage, concurrently. But I will say that the most important thing is that you align in values. So if
Mm.
you label something differently, but at the core, you have the same three values as your priorities, you're going to have a great relationship. I think one of the downsides of access to a lot of information, even initiation, is that
Mm-hmm.
we can treat that as something that's superficial as well. And we can label something and say, hey, I did Sacred Woman. Did you do Sacred King Man? Which
Did you
I'm
do that
fortunate
exactly? Uh-huh.
that
Right.
Mansha went through Divine Sacred King Man before I did Sacred Woman. But
Oh,
there's not even a match in that. There were,
right.
of course, Queen Afua was leading Sacred Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Baba Haru was leading Divine Sacred King Man. So what you're condensing into a 12-week initiation is literally the tip of the iceberg, or like
Mm-hmm.
the first brick in the pyramid.
There you go. Hello.
No, it's not. It's nothing that you can, it's really helping you do that S again. The S in soul, the self work that we do have to prepare for, that we are delayed in,
Yes.
because many of us have not gone through that as teenagers and as children, but we're entering into relationships. So again, by the time we are looking for a serious commitment, we almost have to heal from first crushes or first relationships, first marriages. And because of that, it's a lot of self work. But I think that if you can say to yourself, what is it that I absolutely value, instead of what do I want this other person to have that
Mm.
I think is going to compliment me? who am I? What is my identity based on my values, not any label of education or employment
Mm-hmm.
or initiation. If I can look at somebody else and they also can say what their values are. And, I think the thing that's really interesting is a lot of times when we acquire things, we forget that that's not who we
Who we
are.
are.
Right. We're just
Yes.
acquiring titles, acquiring knowledge. It's not the core of who we are. So if I am really good in something and I meet someone that is not good in that thing, I should be able from my level of mastery to the extent that the other person can embody what I know, not just go through what I went through. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that sometimes we just have the wrong perspective, again, because we don't have a cultural alignment with cultural values. But we
Sure.
also just don't understand, what is the purpose of a relationship? It's not just to serve me.
To serve
I'm
your
not looking
wants
through
and
a vending
needs.
machine
Exactly.
like, let me just see who did this and who did that. And it's going to be like bingo. I put in my money and I hit A6 and I just get the person who's the perfect match. We really have to be able to say, do I know how to communicate? Do I know how to harmonize? Do I know how to love? And what are my top 3 values? Am I leading my life by what I say my values are?
Mm.
Because sometimes we're not. And we can say we have certain values, but then in actuality, if someone else were to audit our lives, they would say we valued something different. And I think that happens often in relationships where there is no such thing as dating up or dating down. I can see why someone would want to offer information, like how you said
Mm-hmm.
about Iyanla Vanzant. If a
Right.
woman has done multiple things and you want to understand where she's coming from, or the terminology, or like when people have cross-cultural relationships, there is this kind of relationship education that's very
Mm.
overt and intentional. But
Mm-hmm.
at the core, whatever it is that you've done, a person should be able to see that you live by something. And that's actually part of the magnetic that draws people in attraction. Is I'm seeing a light in you. I'm seeing that you're attractive for whatever reason. I'm seeing that you are intelligent, and you, especially for a woman, the main thing that you would have to do for a man is inspire him. If you inspire a man, he's going to try to learn whatever it is that you know, eat whatever it is that you eat, right, to a certain extent, because he's inspired to be with you. So I don't think you need to go and find that person who necessarily has done all of that first, but
Right.
you do have to know how to share your life in a way that is not like a mom or a teacher,
Mm.
so that you don't get burnt out, but just like,
Mm.
I'm oozing this is just coming out of me, and you're curious about it, so now I can share. And that is something that's completely different. Sometimes I think we take the mother role too much,
It's
and
true.
then we get burnt out because we don't want to marry our sons.
Right. But how do you know that a person coming to you for the love and partnership as opposed to coming to you for, wow, this person, as you mentioned, has information that I don't have. They have access that I don't have,
Hmm.
whether it's the groups that they belong to, the networks they're in, or what have you, their employment. How can I tap into that, get what I need, and then be gone? Because there are people that have had relationships that way. You kind of feel like, it's like the poem or in the play for colored girls who consider suicide when the rainbow is enough. And Tazaki, one of her characters, says, someone done, came and ran away with all my stuff. In
Hmm.
the play or in the choreo poem, a woman has been giving, 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 and her lover, her partner, has been, of course, soaking up all her goodness and whatever that is, that love, and then he's one day decides to run off. Now I don't even know who I am anymore because I
Right,
gave so much and I did not realize the person was drinking from my fountain but did not plan to replenish me,
right.
you know.
I think every relationship needs to take inventory. This is another acronym that we use, is time. Your time, in the time that is your day, the time that you spend courting, um, that is taking inventory morning and evening. And this is something that we used to do when we were in Sacred Woman. When we said the laws of Ma'at in the morning, it was I will not. When we said them at night, it was I have not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we forget in a relationship that someone can only take when we're giving. And what you need in a relationship is reciprocity. You have to be able to give and receive. So you're not going to give and receive the exact same thing because, again, you're complementary people. So you might be really great in finances. Another person is really great in fitness and health. Like it's not going to be an exact trade, but you do have to recognize if you are picking someone just to be able to give because you think that you're better than that person. So sometimes when people are saying that they're dating
Oh my
down,
goodness.
it's not at an energetic level. You're not. You might both be parasites, both be vampires. But a lot of times what we do is we say, oh, well, hey, this person, I could help them. I could be a come up for them. But really what we're doing is we're using that person to be able to, polish something up and dust something off. And there's a difference between really saying we're mutually getting our needs met in this relationship. And there is reciprocity. So where I give here, you give over there, and there is some harmony, not 50-50 again, but 100%, 100%. 100% of what I can do is matched with 100% of what you can do. And in a long-term relationship, that changes where, one person could be down for 6 months to a year. And that could be emotionally, physically, financially. So you may be feeling like you're doing more, but again, in the entire wheel of your 360 relationship, you have to feel that you are also getting fed.
Okay.
And you have to be fed from multiple places, not just the one relationship, because as we know, you have to give from the overflow of your cup. If you're giving and giving and giving and giving, and you don't have any replenishment from anywhere, you will be bone dry in a little while. But I think it's so important because I hear a lot of women, make comments like this, who are you vetting to date? Why are you dating them? Seriously, answer that question. And then what is the reciprocity? Because we have to know that when someone uses us, and I'm saying like even to the point of not violence, but some levels that are abuse, we have to understand that many, many, many times we are still getting a need met ourselves in that dynamic.
Sure.
And that's hard for people to admit sometimes when we say, hey, I did this, I did that, I did this, and this person just used me and it's been 2 years and I'm used up. But we have to remember that part of the doing this and doing this and doing that, we were feeling significant in that person's life.
Process, of course.
Right. So we're using another person to feel significant and then upset when they move on and, decide to use someone else.
Right. Unfortunately, and that's how it goes. It wasn't personal to you. They're going to get something from you over here and get something from that person over there. And, maybe they were not just, anyway, it's all right. I'm just, and again, I'm just talking, because these are things that I hear and things I read about. And when you talk to women and other women about the state of their affairs and relationships, what have you, these are things that come up. And throughout time, you hear about this. You hear about, how the Black woman is just the backbone of society. You heard it during, the recent political years. Oh, Black women are saving everything. Stacey Abrams with the election in Atlanta, Georgia. And I sometimes get concerned about the label that Black women are getting because it sets us apart in a way that doesn't say, these women also still need to be loved and protected and cared for and cherished.
I agree.
It seems that that's missing from the narrative. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think our femininity, our ability to rest, our ability to play, as women, I think that when you do have the backbone workhorse of the culture label, or even that strong Black woman superhero, absolutely we're strong, but having the archetype of that be the thing that we lead with is a challenge because people do start to view us that way first. And I'm saying people as in all people, our men sometimes, people outside of the Black community. It becomes a
other
caricature.
Women as well. Other women can treat you with disdain or resentment when they see that, oh, wow, she doesn't wish to work till she drops. Oh,
Right.
she doesn't wish to run herself ragged with
Hmm.
me or with the rest of us doing XYZ. No, I don't. I realize
Hey,
I don't.
I agree. Neither do I. Let's
it's
have that as a hashtag.
it's
I
no
don't.
fun. I'd like to have some fun and pleasure and creativity in my life. And
And
it's
I
not
think
a
the same
sin,
thing.
for me to do
I agree. Aligning again about values is so important, even in the sister circle, to be able to say, hey, this is what I value and this is how I'm living my life. And hopefully this will inspire, just like we say in an intimate relationship. We have to all accept that we can't control someone. I think we know it deep down,
Sure.
but in any kind of relationship, family, sisterhood, partnership, we forget emotionally that we can't control someone. Logically, psychologically, rationally, we know this. But when it really comes down to the best way to influence somebody is through
Mm-hmm.
our action and to be able to inspire them to act. And I think the same thing is definitely relevant in the divine feminine relationships, because we are saying we're in a sister circle, but we're often forcing some of the masculine tendencies as
Yes,
opposed to doing the things with ease or energetically,
it's
and
true.
all of the things that are actually feminine. So I think a lot of times, like you're saying, hey, are you going to work, 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 work? There's seasons for work and there's seasons for rest. And as women, I think we absolutely need to embrace, especially Black women, we need to embrace intentional seasons of rest and restoration, because in the quote struggle, whatever the struggle is, we are the superhero coming to the
Mm-hmm.
rescue and working, working, working. And when you're on the Titanic, there's a lot of work to do.
True indeed, to keep it from sinking. And,
Right. So you can go from thing to thing to thing. And this is also why we have a lot of the statistics that are so poor when it comes to Black women's health. So although we're so
yes.
strong and we're doing a lot and we're coming to the rescue, what does that do to us
Mm,
when we are, overweight before other people? We are, having heart attacks and like basically going back to work the next day. We don't get to recover from our
true.
pregnancies. We're dealing with a lot of autoimmune deficiency
Oh,
type of
lots.
issues.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
us attacking our own selves when they
Cancers,
say auto.
fibroid,
Exactly.
womb cancer, all of that. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I think, it's important for us to be able to be on sabbatical sometimes and really, make that announcement. And I think we also, if anyone listening thinks ever, what you were saying, like, hey, you're not going to do this with us. You're not going to say yes millionth time. If you ever find yourself saying that, you have to tune in with self
Mm,
again and say, what is it that I feel? Am I envious that a person knows how to say no? Am I jealous that a person is on sabbatical? And instead of
mm,
being envious or jealous, say, hey, you know what? What my sister has, I can have again. Like, be inspired that you can also
mm,
do that. And then if you don't know how to do it, ask somebody how they're doing it, because again, we want to be in community. We want to share the knowledge, the hacks, the steps. And I mean, I just saw a statistics that 89, I think over 80 years of content is added to YouTube every week. Like, it's impossible to catch up. And one of the first things I thought of are all the Black women who are cooking and doing hair and doing makeup and doing travel hacks. And I'm like, we are sharing from our depths to
Sure.
strangers.
It's
We
true.
definitely are writing books and doing podcasts and doing all of
Mm-hmm.
those things because we want to share. So
True.
whenever I feel even a hint of why isn't this person doing this, I have trained myself, and this is through one of my initiations, to say anything that my sister has, I need to applaud. I need
Mm,
to celebrate, and I need to say, okay, if she can do that, I can do something similar that I would want to do,
sure.
instead of feeling that something that somebody else can do or say or have is somehow off limits to me. And I think that that's a lot of times what the feedback is when it's the
Mm,
coming across as some type of jealousy or misunderstanding. A lot of times it is just the doubt that you
mm,
are also available to do those same things if you so, if you chose.
If you choose, if that's where you choose to put
Exactly.
your focus and your energy.
Hmm.
Um, wow, I really appreciate all of this. This is and everything you're talking, Nwasha, this is a whole nother book. You do know that, right? Like, girl, it's,
Hey, thanks. I think you're right.
a whole nother book. Time to write that, whatever that is for you. Um, so I also wanted to ask you about something else you mentioned. You mentioned several times unconditional love. And I've
Mhm.
often been of the mindset that in terms of relationships, that unless it's a parent child or to your child or your grandmother, I have not often felt that love is unconditional. I mean, in terms of
Mhm.
two partners, as we
Mhm.
see that, we come into a contract, whether it's spiritual or the marriage certificate or what have you. And, I've always thought, and let me know what your thoughts, from your standpoint, that you're going into it conditionally because it's almost you're really looking for a person to compliment you and to do certain things or have certain behaviors that make you feel comfortable in this relationship. And if it ever becomes so toxic or abusive or out of character or out of values to what you see in your life, well then that perhaps may not be something that can continue. So in that case, is my question is love, are these relationships really ever unconditional? Or are we saying I choose to love you with conditions because I do have values and I have standards that I want to live by?
Mhm. I think love, it can be unconditional. Ideally, love already is unconditional, but
Okay.
our experience of love, we doubt, right? So
Mm,
I think that relationships absolutely have conditions. So you
okay.
should not be in anything that's toxic. You should absolutely have boundaries. But love, you can do whether you're next to someone or separate from them. So I think unconditional love comes to really a divine kind of love,
Mm-hmm.
that you are worthy of love no matter what is going on just by arriving on the planet. And if
Mm-hmm.
for some reason you're not willing to be in relationship where we have, again, our top three values that we're living by, and
Mm-hmm.
also I know my absolute non-negotiables, then we have to end the way that we interact with each other. That is understandable. But I think that a lot of times people don't believe in unconditional love because they don't
Mm-hmm.
know it from their childhood. They don't
Okay.
know it from their mother. They don't know it from the so-called beginning. So they don't
Mm,
believe that unconditional love exists. But
okay.
unconditional love to me is life. This idea that life wants to go forward, right? In
Mm-hmm.
a divine order that is in harmony. So it's like homeostasis. Or,
Mm-hmm.
love is just love. And I think a lot of times when you're looking for evidence of anything outside of yourself, you have a harder time than if you just really embody something or bring it from within. So I think if
Mm,
you go within and you say, can I love myself unconditionally through whatever mistakes that I make, through my own disappointments when I disappoint myself, through my own challenges as I'm looking to perfect my character? If I can do that, then I can do that for someone else. But I think sometimes we have a hard time even loving ourselves because, again, we don't have initiation, and our parents didn't either. So they didn't necessarily know how to let us know our strengths and
mm-hmm.
help us compensate for weaknesses. So we're really hard on ourselves, and that makes us hard on others. But when it comes to intimate partnership, a lot of times we want someone to love us through our challenges.
Mm-hmm.
We're just not prepared to love someone else through theirs,
Wow.
especially if it's like,
Mm,
self-sacrifice. Some of us will self-sacrifice, but that is satisfying our need for significance anyway. It's not
sure.
necessarily even unconditionally loving someone else. We're really doing a lot of things, whether it's the good or the not so good. We're doing it to fulfill our own needs.
Oh, I see.
Even the great things, when we're saying, hey, I helped this person out. I, wrote their resume for them and let them borrow $10,000. And that's not always for them. Sometimes it's for us to say, yeah, I looked you out. I'm the one who could come to the rescue. And I think that what we have to do is say, I have 2, 3 non-negotiables. When this happens, our relationship and interaction can be done. But I can unconditionally love you, even if it's from a distance. And I think we have to learn the difference between, sex, just desire, love, unconditional love. We have to learn the differences between those things so that we don't mix everything together.
Right. That makes total sense.
I thought you brought up something else that was really good too. Standards.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Because a lot of times we say we're living by standards or we have standards, but if you have a standard, then it's not going to be relaxed. So again, you can't date down, right? Sometimes when people say they have standards, they have wishes for standards. They wish that things would go a certain way.
For this standard.
Exactly. But a standard means this is just how I live. This is how I communicate. And again, if I can do this with minimal external influence, right? So if I have a standard for communication, even if somebody is yelling at me or, they don't know how to communicate, I have a certain standard. I'm not able to be swayed, especially if we think that what somebody else is doing is less than what we're doing. That to me is a telltale sign that we don't have a standard.
Sure.
The standard is what we're used to. It's what we're practicing already. It is the standard, right?
Yes.
Now, if we have that and somebody else can't meet us, we should be able to help them elevate to the standard. But often what happens is we say we have a standard and that somebody else is bringing us down. That would never happen if it was like a child, and
True.
we say, yeah, a child knows how to make peanut butter and jelly. So since this child just knows how to slap together 2 pieces of bread, that's all we're going to eat for the month. Absolutely not, right? We would say, okay, this is how you cook rice. This is how you chop vegetables. This is how you prepare pasta. We would elevate the child's culinary skills. And the same thing happens, I think, with language. We can see, if I meet someone who doesn't speak the language, I can adjust because I know thousands of words and they know 1,000. So I can give them synonyms and I can have a deeper explanation of what we're talking about and share where that person's knowledge is brought up to mine. But when it comes to relationships, a lot of times we say, I have a standard for dating. I have a standard for having sex. I have a standard for communication. And we don't actually have that. We have a wish or a dream or a fairy tale version that we don't know how to make manifest with another person. And so we both are going to come to the lower level of whatever it is that we both practice. And I think that, it's fair to say that we don't know how to do things because we don't have relationship education, but we do have to say, we have to admit that, because when we admit it, we can seek support. And this is something that we do in health or spirituality or finances. We say, hey, I think it's really, really fascinating because in health, if I saw someone who looked fit and looked amazing and looked beautiful, I wouldn't even need to know that person. I would walk up to them and say, hey, you look amazing. What gym do you go to?
Right. What are you doing? What's your program?
Exactly. If I knew the person though and saw them lose 20 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds, somewhere in the middle of that, I would be like, you look amazing. What are you doing? What is it that's happening? Because I'm watching a transformation. And I think that we don't think about doing that in relationships because we don't see it. Like you said, we don't hear it in entertainment. We don't see it on television.
Right.
And we might not know someone that we think has a great relationship to ask that way. But I think we see it in finances. I see the young people on TikTok just walking up to someone, walking up to doors and saying, hey, you live in an amazing neighborhood. What do you do? Right. Walking up to people in their cars like, this is a great car. What do you do for a living?
What do you do for a living that got you this?
Exactly. And we don't do that in relationship. The expectation that someone is happy and they could let me in on their tricks and tips. I think relationships are just so private and personal that we don't want to open ourselves up. And we also feel like maybe we're prying to ask someone who seems happy.
Yeah.
But I think we have to realize that just like other areas of our life, the sooner that we recognize that there's a gap between where we are and where we want to be, and that somebody else could help us close the gap, the sooner we recognize that, the sooner we'll be happier. Just like in finances, just like in fitness, just like in any field that we say, I want to do this, let me look for somebody else who's doing it. I think that we need to do that same thing in relationship.
Wow, that's powerful, and everything you've said is giving people permission to say, you know what, I haven't had a good track record, or my experiences haven't been, to my, expectation, or to what I thought I really wanted in life. And I really don't know what to do next. Can you, can you help me? Because
Mm-hmm.
you look like, or the people, seem like they have the knowledge that I don't have.
Right.
And that's really important.
Absolutely.
And so, Nwasha, I'd love to know what currently, do you offer for people who are seeking the information in your book and seeking the support to have healthy relationships at this time?
Well, I offer one-on-one counseling in the art and science of Black love culture. So the art is some of the things we think about, the chemistry, the desire, the why we need to be in love, which I think a lot of women think about because we're conditioned with fairy tales and stories of love and dreaming of weddings and all of those types of things. But the science is the how it's going to get done, the methodology, the steps, the procedures, the best practices. And we need to marry those things, the art and the science, so that we actually are fulfilled. So I offer one-on-one coaching packages to just get people to close the gap between where they are now and their ultimate magic wand scenario, is how I call it. Because most people, if you ask them, if you had a magic wand, what would you want in relationships? We say the most basic things. Even with a magic wand, we're like,
That's true.
I want to be able to communicate.
Somebody that loves me, take me on a date every
Exactly.
week,
And I'm like, wow, that you had a magic wand and you're saying the most regular things, but the challenge is
Say
we
the
don't know
most
how to do
basic
it.
things, right?
Exactly, exactly. So that's what I help people do, is close the gap to their magic wand scenario so that they are the most fulfilled, because I do believe that relationships are the biggest part of life. And I also think that it's the part of life where we have the most regrets. So when we
Mm,
are leaving the planet, or if someone else leaves, I think when it's really, really evident that life is finite, and those moments where things happen, I think that our deepest desire is for fulfilling relationships. So I help people in any important relationship. What I always say is, whatever is the most important relationship that you have right now, I can help you with that. And sometimes that is a family relationship, the
sure.
intimate partnership. Sometimes it's a work relationship that's stressing you out the most, and you're spending a lot of time with your
Because
partners in
some
business.
people have work husbands and work wives, I've heard.
True. That is true. I mean, you spend a lot of time, and depending on how you're working. I know a lot of people are
Yeah,
virtual and a lot of people work for themselves, but many other people, you could be spending 8 hours,
or
5 days
more.
a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's sometimes more than you significantly sit with your partner and your children and the rest of your extended family. So these
True.
are relationships that you have a lot of conversation, but your needs still need to get met under that umbrella of work. And so wherever
Mm,
need to be met, I help people influence. I help people set their standards. I help people, change, because that's something that we have to be willing to do. I
mm,
help people let go, which is also something that we have to be willing to do.
mm-hmm.
And I do that in shorter term packages, and then longer extended packages. But I also offer a course in communication. So in the communication that is relevant,
Mm-hmm.
everyday practices, but also some of the indigenous or intuitive understanding of communication, which is what I like to say is when you are speaking without words, right? So without the things that we're saying, but body language, thoughts, energy, emotion, all of those things are definitely a part of our communication, not just what comes out of our mouth.
Mm-hmm.
but also our ability to listen. And the rituals that you can do, which is another way to work without the overt intentional or just the physical materialistic items that we see, but
Sure.
all of the other things like the elements and, so working with air, working with fire, working with water, working with earth, ether, magnetism, electricity, right? We're saying that those are tools in a toolbox, especially for Indigenous people, that can be used to help us facilitate our life. One of my favorite authors, Malidoma Some, I
Oh,
love his work.
yes. Mm-hmm.
He said these were African spirit technologies that, just like our cell phone and other technologies that we use, you're supposed to be using technology to ease your life. And we
Wow.
forget sometimes about the elements and other indigenous technologies that we can use to ease our life. So this is another element that I do as a cohort, is take people through. One of the biggest things that people complain about in counseling is communication. So this is a on-demand program that also meets with a live cohort a few times a year, where we go
Mm-hmm.
over understanding communication to have
Mm-hmm.
the best, most fulfilling, intimate communication that you can have. And we're doing those three things: the psychological reparation, the relationship education, and the cultural initiation into using ritual. And then, of course,
Mm.
we have a bi-weekly group that meets, that is just the Black Love School. So that is a place where we meet and we go over the seasonal understanding. So the idea would be it's like a annual initiation into
Mm-hmm.
the art and science of Black love culture. And then that is an open virtual Zoom meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we go over different things in every season. So we're in the spring right now, which is all about renewal and new love and making yourself new again, making your relationship new again. And also like things, how to court, how to set boundaries, how to meet needs, um, how to vet people.
Right,
And
right.
all of those types of things. When we move to the summer, we talk about sex and intimacy and passion. So we have classes on what is an orgasm from an Indigenous perspective,
Mm-hmm.
genital reflexology, how to talk about sex, because even though we talk about communication, sometimes different topics make us more sensitive. So we
Right.
have a lot of different courses that are on demand, but we listen to the courses, do the heart work, and then come together bi-weekly to share in community and learn from each other and have accountability.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. So many really wonderful initiatives and programs that you're offering. And when you offer these for people, does your book is your book, I guess, used as a handbook or the workbook?
Yes, so definitely in our VIP package that goes for about a season, a person actually, when they're doing the VIP individual coaching, they get access to Black Love School for the season, and they get our books so that they can have reference to, some of the foundational things that we talk about and some of the foundational heart work, and keep it as a resource.
That's wonderful. And so, Nawasha, what is it that you're excited about that's coming up for you, or in your current vision for the work, and what's coming up next?
I am really excited about expanding the work that we're doing. I think coming out of 2 years of quarantine,
Oh my gosh,
we
yes.
are the good that came out of that is expanding the platform to be able to use Zoom. And,
Hmm.
we've had people celebrate Akoma Day in 13 different countries, but now we're
Wow.
actually able to come together in those 13 different countries. So we have a lot of representation in Black Love School from Canada, multiple states within the United States, Mexico, the Caribbean, Europe, Africa. So we even have someone in New Zealand. So we're really excited about using the platform to expand
Hmm.
our community, because what we realize is even though we have different cultural practices on a daily basis, and we may speak different languages, again, in the diaspora, we're dealing with some of the same things from colonization, oppression, enslavement. And so we have some of the same healing to do. We've also
Yes.
lost some of the relationship education and, the ability to put it into context. So when we come together, we really have so much in common, even though we're coming from different places. And that's something that I'm very excited about. But I'm also coming back together in person. So we have the Akoma Day retreat is coming up for next February. So we just
Mm-hmm.
booked a beautiful place in the Poconos. We're going to be
Oh,
at the Aquaba
wow.
House, which is a Black-owned bed and
Oh
breakfast that I
yeah, I know
love.
Aquaba because
So,
they Monique Greenwood. She has or has. I haven't been in a long time, but she started out in Brooklyn in Bed Stuy
right.
with a beautiful place. Yeah.
Yep. So now she has Noble Lane in the Poconos. So it's a little bigger than Brooklyn, I think maybe
Mm-hmm.
13, 14 beds.
Oh
So we'll be
wow.
there for Akoma Day, for celebrating our first Akoma Day in person in years. But we're
Okay.
doing it retreat style. So rather than just having the Akoma Day celebration, we're really going to be able to unplug from the day to day
Mm-hmm.
and be completely immersed in relationship work,
Mm-hmm.
and really making that recommitment. So I'm very excited about that. I'm also excited about gathering with just the women, which that's going to be happening in November of this year.
Oh.
So I'm
Uh-huh.
really just excited about coming back together. I think I love ritual. I love, being in person, and I love energy, so
Mm-hmm.
although energy is very expansive, I love when I can really get in front of someone and have the vibration of their voice and the vibration of their energy, off of their body, and really doing the
Mm-hmm.
work that you can't kind of do through Zoom.
That is so true.
So I'm
It has
excited.
its limits. That's right.
It does. So at the same time, that is very expansive. The limit is that in-person touch, that I really love and appreciate. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to gathering with my sisters. We'll be in Jamaica in
Oh,
November.
Jamaica. What part of
Yes.
Jamaica?
I actually can't even tell you. We
Oh, okay.
literally, one of my sacred sisters is in Jamaica. She lives in Jamaica,
Oh,
so she was
wow.
able to suggest a place,
Okay.
literally like last week.
Oh, that's
So we
wonderful.
are firming up on the itinerary and firming up on the complete offer,
Mm-hmm.
but we are going to be together for at least 5 days and maybe seven. But we have
Wow.
just a great space to be able to go to the ocean, private
Mm-hmm.
beach, and just a place to really rest. So what we're focusing on for the women is what we were just talking about, that idea of rest and play and joy, and really being able to restore ourselves and come back to doing all of the work that we're doing. So I'm very excited about that, because I think that's a greater conversation that Black women do need to have, is
Yes.
within our movements, making conscious effort to rest and to enjoy ourselves and to laugh and to have fun, even in the midst of all this chaos. I think there are still a million miracles around
True.
us every single day that we need
Mm-hmm.
to tap into for part of that refilling. And I'm looking forward to doing that in community.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing, Nawasha. And I love to hear the excitement and passion in your voice as you discuss these new things that are on the horizon for you, and that will seriously be benefiting others and supporting and nurturing Black women to be healthier and to enjoy life and to have better relationships. And so, Nawasha, please tell us where we can find you and follow you on social media, and also the best place for us to purchase your book, Akoma Day.
You can follow me at Nwasha. So I'm on Instagram as Nwasha and Facebook as Nwasha. And also I'm on Instagram together with Masho for the Akoma Day book as Akoma Day every day, because although it is a holiday, we are looking to embody the virtues and the principles of the holiday every single day. So you can find Akoma Day every day on Facebook and on Instagram. And you can also find out more about joining the Black Love School or getting coaching or buying the book at Akoma House Initiative. So Akoma is Akoma, and then House, House, and then Initiative, INITIATIVE.com.
Wow. Thank you so much, Nwasha. This has been very informative, uplifting, and inspiring to be able to speak with you today. And I wish you and your coaching and counseling business all the success that you can possibly stand. And I look forward to following all the things that you're going to be doing heading into this next season. And so thank you for being on Nerdacity Podcast with me.
Thank you so much for sharing me with your audience. And I wish the same for you. All of the abundance, all of the peace, all of the joy that you can stand.
Thank you so much. We'll have a wonderful day and we'll be in touch.
Take care, Akoma.
Take care. And you were just listening to episode 40 of Nerdacity Podcast, featuring my guest, Nwasha Edu. She is the co-author of Akoma Day, Guidebook into the Sacred Science of Soulmating. Visit her website at akomahouseinitiative.com. I hope you'll follow Nerdacity Podcast on social media and become a part of our community on Instagram at Nerdacity Podcast. Also, like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Nerdacity Podcast. We're also on Twitter, so tweet me any commentary that you have related to the current episodes or anything related to books, pop culture, poetry, authors, and more on Twitter at NerdacityPod1. If you'd like to support this podcast by giving a donation, please feel free to visit anchor.fm/DuEwa Fraser/support or by sending your donation to Cash App, $DuewaWorld, or paypal.me/DuewaWorld. Thanks so much for listening. Take care.